Well, the holiday season can be stressful, especially if you have a family member or a loved one or a friend that's dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. So joining us today with the Alzheimer's Association, Marybeth Torsell, with some kind of holiday stress-free tips. And, you know, it's hard to be stress-free at all during the holidays, you know. So there's certain things that we should do and think about if, you know, we're going to visit someone with Alzheimer's or dementia or stay with them for the holidays.
That's a really good, it's a good point. I didn't even think about that perspective. But yeah, if you're going to go visit somebody that has Alzheimer's or dementia, it's a good idea to not to engage them one-on-one with conversation. You know, if you've got 3 people and you're all trying to talk to them at once, it just gets way too confusing. So one conversation at a time and not a lot of people at once too. Smaller gatherings are definitely better.
There are a lot of families around our area and the U.S. that are going to be dealing with this kind of thing.
Yes, there's a lot of you know, Alzheimer's that's been diagnosed in the community, but then even, you know, dementia, not just Alzheimer's, but any type of dementia, it goes very, very strongly, or there's a lot of undiagnosed, that's the word.
Oh, okay.
A lot of undiagnosed cases.
Well, around the holidays when more families are together, do families get more concerned and like, hey, maybe there is something up?
They start to notice, you know, people who haven't been around them, because if you're with somebody day after day, you might not notice some of the subtle, like repetitive questions or repetitive things, but someone who's coming over for the first time in several months or even a year is going to pick up on those pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the holidays a time, though, to address it, or do you say something, or what? I mean, does that just compound the stress that you're having during the holidays?
I wouldn't call them out over dinner, but, you know, maybe after the holidays, you know, you can talk to your loved one and say, you know, hey, I noticed that Uncle Bob was acting, you know, repeating the same question or seemed confused, you know, is something going on? And bring it to their attention that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many challenges, and like you mentioned, smaller groups, some other things. What should people think about to kind of make it a little bit stress-free and you enjoy along with your loved one that has the Alzheimer's and dementia?
I think it's really important for caregivers to be realistic about what they can and can't handle. You know, we tend to think, you know, yes, I've hosted Christmas Eve for the past 30 years and we have 30 people over, but maybe it's time that somebody else does that. You know, maybe it's time to say, hey, does somebody else want to host Christmas Eve, and make it, you know, someone else's, or make it smaller, or do it over a couple weeks. And if your loved one gets sundowners, you know, confused in the evenings, have Christmas lunch instead of Christmas dinner.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of some of the things you need to think about and talk with the family and friends. It's not that you don't want to see these people, and I'm sure they want it, everybody wants to see, so kind of just juggle it a little bit more and stuff.
Yeah, just, you know, instead of having, like I said, instead of doing, you know, one dinner with 30 people, maybe have like divide it up a little bit and have, you know, lunch one day and then dinner the next day, and just kind of spread it out over some time.
What about gifts? Because that is an important part of the holiday. And it doesn't need to be, but it seems to be. You know, with Christmas, you got to come with a present or a gift.
Yeah, you can either say, please don't give me any gifts, please don't give us any gifts, but people always feel like they need to. So you could suggest some things, you know, how about getting some clothes that easily come on and off, that don't have buttons, you know, things like, you know, batteries for security cameras, or things that you need, or some activities that your loved one can do. They have all kinds of activity boards and different types of dementia-friendly activities that you could get.
And, you know, we're talking about, you know, the person with dementia and Alzheimer's, but also the caregivers. You got to remember them too, and maybe like give them a break. I mean, what are maybe some gifts you could give them that you don't wrap up in a box necessarily?
That would be a great gift. You know, respite. Say, hey, I'll stay with your loved one while you run out and get, you know, groceries even, or go get your hair done, or just leave for a little bit. So providing some respite, or offering to make dinner and bring it if they really want to host it at their house. Offer to make more things. But just giving them a break sometimes is the best gift that you can give. Just offer to stay with their loved one while they go run some errands.
Right. I can see sometimes that maybe people would just almost kind of give up and say, look, you know, well, we're at this point, I'm just not going to do anything. Is that a good or bad idea, or does it just depend?
It depends on the person who has the disease. You know, if it's too overwhelming for even 2 people to come over for that person, you know, you can kind of play it by ear and see how they react to that. But if it's too much for them or for the caregiver, you know, you could always just say, hey, this year we're just not going to do it. And people have to understand that. And if they don't, too bad.
Exactly, yeah. Trying to keep the holidays stressful and keep everyone kind of happy and joyous at the same time. Kind of difficult, but thanks, Marybeth, for some of these tips that you got.
Thanks.
All right, don't go away. We'll take a look at the weather forecast next.